Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from around the world. We are not ashamed of the good news of conservatism, for it is the power of liberation. First to the Republican and then the Democrat Socialist. Yours truly, the exceptional one here on the wheels of steel. It is New Day Black and Red Night, and you know what that means. The professor, Dr. Michael Jones, will be joining us very shortly. And we have much to talk about. Subject, theme, matter for the night, as this is a show that gives you both a constitutional and a biblical perspective on current day events. A night in Tel Aviv or the Hamas two-state solution. You pick it. I tell you. Glad to have you in here, Agador, Dave, Milner. He's in the chat room at the exceptionalconservativeshow.com. And of course, my beloved bouncer, Mary Brockman. God bless you. So glad to have you here. If you diss her, you diss me, and you will be dismissed. Completely. Obliterated. Ladies and gentlemen, you know what we do at this fair hour of the night. With Mrs. Biggs watching via Ustream and live stream. We pledge allegiance to the United States of America, and then we get kick-started. Without further ado, I want you to put your right hand over your heart. And then I want you to join Senora Cabrera in a pledge of the allegiance to the United States of America.
Buenas tardes, niños. This is Spanish with Senora Cabrera. Today we will learn how to say the Pledge of Allegiance in Spanish. In English, we say, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now in Spanish we say, juro fidelidad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y a la república que representa, una nación, bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos. Practice your pledge of allegiance, and the more you practice, the faster you will memorize. And see you later.
And we will see you now. Thank you, Senor. Amen to all of that. You are listening to New Day Black and Red tonight. I'm listening here, but I may turn VTR up again. Ken, when you called the professor earlier, you sounded great. Thank you, Dave. And thank you, Mary. So it's a multi-platform mosh pit. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I want to introduce to some and present the others the wise oracle from Fort Worth, Texas, none other than the great Dr. Michael Jones. He is known better as the Underground Professor. One ringy dingy.
To wear any other decorations and stuff.
He's on fire tonight, trust me.
Those who didn't get any merit scholarships and stuff, and so they're not allowed to wear it. That's the country we're in. Guys, I have to stop my show because some annoying guy from Washington, D.C., as usual, is calling to bother us.
It is none other than the great oracle of Fort Worth, Dr. Michael Jones, better known as the Underground Professor. We get kick-started tonight from Fort Worth as well as Washington, D.C. and simulcast as you listen to a New Day Black and Red. Good going. Glad to have you here.
Well, I'm trying to get rid of her now. She's driving me crazy.
Now, I want everyone to.
My friend?
I've been well. I want everyone to know that tonight is a very special night. And
That's right. It's Thursday.
It's Thursday. And not just because it's a show, New Day Black and Red, and as a peon, I have actually made certain that all of the M&Ms face downward so that they are all M's. Tonight is very special because it is the birthday of none other than Dr. Michael Jones. Happy birthday, sir.
You know those things where it says this day in history?
Yep.
Yeah. If you look up my birthday, it's the most uneventful day in history. It says that this day is historically so insignificant that my birthday actually rates up there in the events of this history.
Yeah. Well, we think, Professor,
Yes,
that it was one of the greatest marketable achievements since the entry of the divine into humanity called Jesus Christ. Thank God that you were born, sir.
that was it.
Popcorn and everything.
Yes, it was pretty neat, but very dirty. The whole manger thing is overrated.
It is indeed. It is indeed.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know this, but I was on the volunteer fire department that put the burning bush out.
Did you charge them?
Oh yeah, it's like Benjamin Franklin. You know, if your house was burning, the fire department didn't show up unless you paid.
That's right. You want this bush out? Come on, give it up.
That's right. A lot of these people wouldn't pay their insurance or their fire coverage bills, and then their house caught on fire, and they would just sit there, and they're like, okay, you know, and then they would have to pay real quick. They'd have to come up with a way of paying Benjamin so that the fucking ladder wouldn't run out and go start pumping.
I'm gonna tell you, Benjamin Franklin understood currency. He understood capitalism, and he took full advantage of it.
Yes, I liked him.
I loved him.
He's my favorite of founding fathers.
If we had followed Benjamin Franklin, Canada would have been a part of the United States of America.
Yeah, and the turkey would have been our national bird.
Well, you know, clock's right twice a day.
That's right. Franklin was great about a lot of things, but there were some freaky things too with him. But remember that series I was doing of the Indispensable Man series? And I think I started with Franklin on that because my opinion was that there were several people that if we didn't have them, then the revolution wouldn't have happened the way it did. You know, like Adams and Washington. But Franklin is one of those people. They see Benjamin Franklin, and what they don't see is that he was a spy master, and ran a huge network of spies in France, England, and in America. And because of that, we have a lot of intelligence that we wouldn't have had otherwise. There's a lot of other things, but the man was a master string puller from behind in the sync vaccines.
Yeah,
he manipulated people or put people in positions to do things, and then whispered in their ears to get the things that he wanted done. So it wasn't always Benjamin Franklin doing it; it was somebody else, but it was actually Benjamin Franklin getting them to do it.
He was a world.
Pretty interesting stuff.
He was a world gentleman, and Britain lost a lot of good talent that escaped. He was one of them. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to play for you a very special message from the White House, dated December 6, 2015. Isn't that Pearl Harbor is December 7th. Close enough. Close enough. This is
in government books. It's not. Government history books. The 6 is close enough. If you feel good about the 6 is good enough.
Exactly. Thank God for Common Core. We will all pass the SAT. This is Hillary Clinton talking about the Middle East.
If you say so.
Yep. Any day now.
No outside force is going to resolve the conflict between Israelis and Palestinians. Only a two-state solution
It's in there.
and provide Palestinians independence, sovereignty, and dignity, and provide Israelis the secure and recognized borders of a democratic Jewish state. Now, it is no secret that the most recent efforts to advance direct negotiations didn't yield much tangible progress. But I remain convinced, and I think it's important we all remain convinced, that peace is possible. So I refuse to give up on the goal of 2 states for 2 people. And no matter how unattainable it may seem at the moment, Israelis and Palestinians shouldn't give up on it. Instead, they should demand their leaders seek every opportunity to demonstrate their commitment. Inaction is not an option. A one-state solution is no solution. It is a prescription for endless conflict. Israelis deserve security, recognition, and a normal life free from terror. And Palestinians should be able to govern themselves in their own state in peace and dignity. It's also time to stop pretending that solving the Israeli-Palestinian conflict will solve all of the Middle East's problems. For too long, Arab states have used the Israeli-Palestinian conflict as an excuse to avoid facing their own challenges at home. The people of the region have shown they will no longer accept this. Their leaders should drop the excuses and pick up the pace of getting their own houses in order.
There we go, ladies and gentlemen. That was Hillary Clinton back in 2015, establishing the fact that the Israelites need to get their acts together and allow the Palestinians to rule over them. And the Palestinians need to understand that it's going to only take a little bit of time before that happens. Professor,
Yes.
a night in Tel Aviv or the Hamas 2-state solution is what we're themed about tonight, amongst other things that we'll talk about. But your thoughts on the difference between what we will see in this administration versus what we will see under the Hillary Clinton administration regarding Middle East affairs in Israel.
Are you saying, because I couldn't hear any of that, so you're saying if Hillary became president that Israel would be in trouble?
Yeah, close enough. There you go. Your thoughts on Hillary as president in Israel?
Well, I'll tell you what, of course they won't do it, but if I was Netanyahu, or whatever his name is over there in Israel, I saw that Hillary won the presidency, before she took the oath of office, I think I would just go ahead and destroy the Palestinians and take them out of their misery. And then dare Egypt and the others to respond because of that. The old saying that if Israel laid down their arms, then tomorrow they'd be all slaves or pushed into the ocean and killed. But if the Palestinians laid down their arms, then there'd be peace. Peace is not what's wanted in the Middle East. They don't want peace. They don't want a 2-state solution. They don't want, and if it was all just about giving the Palestinians, quote unquote, someplace to live, there's plenty of empty dirt out there that no one's using. And they could have a home instantly. Saudi Arabia could carve out some sand and say, here, squat on this. And that'd be it. It'd be over. But they won't do it, and they don't do it because then it would, the dirt's called Iraq. Now, there's a good place too. A lot of space out there. But they won't do it because it doesn't take care of their political desires. Okay? They have these political desires that they have, and that is to go against Israel and to tie up America and to get funding and stuff. And hey, no flinching. What did I tell you about flinching? Okay? So anyway, that's not what's desired. And as you know, Palestinians don't exist. It's a made-up name that comes from Roman times, and it was a Roman's word. Palestine was a Roman term for all that area, and it described mostly the Jews, but it was just a geographical area. And it has no historical basis. That place has always and mostly always had Jews in it. And it's ridiculous that any Arab thinks that they have a right to it based on anything in history. Now listen to that. I'm being called the C word by an amazing academic on my show who has used lots of great arguments, or not, is responded to me as being the C word because that's their ad hominem attack, because they can't argue with me with logic or debate me on issues or facts, so they're calling me names. And that's a product of Common Core, and I guess this person has received way too many participation trophies and thinks that they actually have something to offer our country. You should go back and tell your mom she failed you to teach you politeness and respect, and also to tell your schools that they failed you too.
Yeah, but you
because you haven't learned anything.
You should. You should also tell them that the Girl Scouts failed them on teaching civility. So.
Well, I don't want to say that he came back and called me the C word again, because you're a moron. You're not even fun. If you could come up with something fun, I'd leave you around, but I'm just going to block you because you're stupid and I don't do stupid. So, so Narturo, or Naurto is his name, or whatever that means. Is that some kind of like almond and peanut butter or something? No. So anyway, yeah. So anyway, it's my birthday. I don't suffer fools gladly on a normal basis. Certainly not going to do it on my birthday. So anyway, you want an American granddad. Where are you from? Wants an American granddad. I'm talking age. Oh, you're from England. Isn't that a little late? Didn't they pass your bedtime over there?
Wow. That means that you are very effective in communication. You make people want to stay up. Arturo happens to be the variant of the name Arthur. If for those who are following along home, there you go. So you actually tuned in.
It had an N in it, not Arturo, like that.
Yeah. So you actually learned something by tuning in here. Dave Milner makes it pronounce that it is 2:23 in the morning in England. So you must be very good for people to want to stay around until 2:23 in the morning to listen to you. Congratulations, sir.
Well, look, it's not fair to him. These women all around the world, I can't turn this off, and they have no resistance. So, this is what's going on. It's not fair to them. Same for everybody? Hey, Saudi Arabia, welcome. So, hey, what time is it in Saudi? I can't remember. It's been too long to convert time. But, I guess it's after 6 p.m. over there, so you guys can be on the internet now. So happy Ramadan. So, yes, I think that would be very dangerous, Ken. But I don't know if there's a better solution out there with any of the other presidential candidates. To tell you the truth.
Yeah.
I think they all come with their different sets of problems and dangers.
Exactly.
And I don't see why there has to be a solution from America in this. To be quite honest, most everybody that screws with Israel ends up getting pounded or hurt, and so I think Israel's quite capable of taking care of themselves. This is really my brain puzzle. So you got chat. Good. But so anyway, Bernie Sanders. Oh my goodness, that's scary.
Wow.
Because I don't know. Yes, today is my birthday. But again, I don't see why America has to be involved in the Israeli situation. I'm quite sure that they're capable of taking care of themselves, and if another country wanted to get into a war with them, then I say that we should, pick a side and join in. But otherwise, I don't know why we have to broker it. I don't know why we have to get involved. I don't know why we have to spend our money on this. Israel wants to protect itself. It's got plenty of money to spend, and so do the Arabs. They got plenty of money to spend, so they can all buy their weapons and tanks and soldiers, and they can do whatever they want. I don't see how it affects national security in America. Now, I'm pro-Israel, but I'm not pro-Israel to the extent where I think that we need to violate national security for that. But if they are, some people will say they're the only democracy over there. Well, yeah, they're not actually a democracy, but they're closer to it than we are. But they are an elected government, and that is important, because we're an elected government. But again, I think the whole two-state solution thing is ridiculous on a prima facie basis, and I don't think it would even survive very much scrutiny beyond that. And I don't see America's role in it. You answer your question?
Yeah, you did. You did a very good job at answering my question. We're talking tonight with Dr. Michael Jones. I happen to be his peon in training, his understudy, his student, his. I am your piss. Yes. Oh, hope you like those green M&Ms. Hey, we're one's brown.
I think all of them look like they've been wet too, so I'm not even
I am the exceptional one, Ken McClinton. This is birthday night for Dr. Michael Jones. Happy birthday to him. Happy birthday in the U.S., but in Saudi Arabia, his birthday was yesterday. So that's how time passes. Yeah, that's true.
Speaking of, one of the guys in my chat room on Periscope said that my birthday's on National Sex Day. Sadly, I didn't get any for my birthday, so it didn't work for me.
Don't you hate when UPS is late?
The blow-up doll was scheduled for delivery.
With all that rain that's in Texas,
transgender blow-up doll too.
just in case you have to go to the bathroom.
They can use any bathroom at once. So.
With all that rain in Texas, you think that they were able to ship it to you, literally.
That's it. I'm gonna have her to remind Hillary so we can get the paper sacks out.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. I want to play a quick clip here of how CNN. I hope you can hear it this time. CNN covers the attack in Tel Aviv. This is CNN coverage.
At 9:30 local time, this is a popular place in the city of Tel Aviv. It is filled with restaurants, cafes, shops, young people out having a fun time on a Wednesday evening.
Okay.
That was when two shooters were involved in this.
There was before 30 seconds.
They had shot a number of people, of which we have only recently heard 3 of them have been killed. The police are now saying with some certainty that there were only 2 attackers involved. One of them was shot and injured and is currently being operated on in hospital. The second person was captured at the scene. The area has not been closed off. It is being searched. One of the priorities for the police is to ensure that there is no further risk from any sort of improvised explosive device. And meanwhile, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has gotten straight off the plane to Moscow with the Russian president and gone straight to the Defense Ministry for meetings there. Interestingly, the Defense Ministry is very close to the scene of this shooting tonight.
There we go. So that was the Tel Aviv matter. I don't know if I can play the rest of these clips because the professor can't hear them. I wanted to play the clip where Cornel West is talking to the Democrat Party and its party platform about the occupation of Palestine by the Israelites, by the Israelis, by the Jews. And Cornel West basically stated that there should be something in the platform that speaks to there being an occupation of Palestine and that the Democrat Party should do something about it. Is there?
Yeah. Well, Cornell West is the man I go to for all my foreign policy advice.
Oh man. I,
Yeah. I think what I'm going to do is next time Cornell West does anything, I'm going to send Taylor Swift over to kick his butt. Yeah. So I heard that Cornel West said something dumb, but look, again, this is the guy who complained that he didn't get a participation trophy. Well, Taylor Swift, is talented and beautiful and liked, and she did. So screw Cornel. I don't really care what he had to say. It's like that basketball moron that goes to Korea all the time. Who cares?
Who cares? There you go.
Yeah, who cares? Yeah. I'm thinking Kanye West. Well, they all look alike.
That's right. We all carry the same weight.
I'm talking about Democrats, not.
Oh. Speaking of.
Did I ever tell you the story about the Fat Boys and that I rapped with them in Okinawa?
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Yeah. That was fun.
I was impressed. I was simply impressed.
We rapped the song "In Jail Without the Bell."
In jail. In jail without the bell.
Without the bell. I went to my crib and got my 12 gauge. Went back to the store. 8 pieces of log. You like that? You'd have liked the Fat Boys. I think you'd have fit right in.
Right between them, boys. Yeah, perfect bookends for me.
So yeah. Look, Hillary had to do something, didn't she? She picked up a magic ton of super delegates without even having a primary, and she had to get that off of the news. So she comes up with a foreign policy speech. It's like, look, one speech from Hillary does not explain her foreign policy. Wait a second, what's this? Big Bear Lake, California's calling. I don't know.
Wow.
It doesn't explain who Hillary is with foreign policy, but we know her foreign policy. We know that she's gone on trips and lied about getting shot at under attack in her helicopter. We know that she's lied about Benghazi and framed some idiot that made a YouTube video no one saw and pinned it all on him to distract the country, and then lied to the families of the men who were killed in Benghazi over that. We know that we haven't heard hide or hair from any of the people that were saved by our friends that were over there. Oh crap, now I need to get his name. Tell me his name, Tim. Mary's not in my chat room. Toronto.
Yeah.
Toronto.
Chris, yeah.
And the other guys, right?
Yeah.
We haven't heard hide or hair from any of the people they actually rescued. We know a lot about what happened because of the broken movie in Benghazi, 13 hours. We know about a lot of the lies and problems of her and this administration and her as Secretary of State and a lot of the failures. We know about the email scandals and the server scandals and the classified information that was hacked by foreigners because of her unsecured servers. So what else do we need to know? We know that she attacked women who her husband raped or abused, and that she went after them as bimbo eruptions. We know that she made $100,000 off of $1,000 or something like that, or $1 million off of $100,000, whatever it was, on cattle futures, and that she's too stupid to operate a phone with 2 phones on it, right? As she told us, it was too confusing. But she managed to make all that money in Whitewater. She managed to make all that money on cattle futures. And she's the smartest woman in the world, but she couldn't work the phones.
Yeah.
And so we know on and on and on. The Rose Law Firm records. We know about Vince Foster and the suicides of all the people who have died around the place. What do we need to know about a speech that she made on foreign policy? Who cares? She should be in Leavenworth. She should be in prison as a traitor to this country, not as a presidential candidate for the Communist Party, I mean, the Democrat Party of America.
Well, you had that right. You had that right. They are the communists.
I'm the professor.
Of course you are, Professor. I must oblige thee at all times of your great honor. It would be sacrilege if I did not proclaim your great glory at all times.
I know that's right. And for those who want to know, even though it's my birthday, I'm feeling very physically fit and not suicidal, so if anything happens, you know where to look.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to New Day Black and Red. It is being simulcast on Professor Michael Jones, Dr. Michael Jones, that is, at Underground Professor Show on Blog Talk Radio. It is also being simulcast.
2000th birthday.
Yeah, for his birthday. We are celebrating it.
2,000 years old today.
That's right.
Oh.
That's right. Yes, you have been. At least that's what the ladies say.
That's right.
And you're listening on the ExceptionalConservativeshow.com, the Broadcast Central page. You can also hear us live on Sackheads Radio Network. That's SHR Media. You can hear us also rebroadcast on High Plains Pundit Media. And, of course, Internet Conservative Radio Network, which will be changing its name on July 4th. We encourage you to stay tuned to find out what that new name is. Also, we want to tell you, and in Thanksgiving, for our new sponsor, which is USA Dogs, DAWGS. That's USA DAWGS. It is the best footwear in America. It really is. And if you use promo code GGA40, you will get 40% off your first purchase. All you need to do is come to the ExceptionalConservativeshow.com to its page. You can either do it on our home page or you can do it on our Broadcast Central page. Click right on Dogs, the paw, and then it will take you directly to where you can use the promo code GGA40, and you can get your first purchase of these shoes 40% off. My wife, Mrs. Biggs, who does not try everything that I put on our system here, did try it out, and she's loving the fact that she has ordered her shoes. So I'm encouraging you. Take time.
They had a real dogs, too.
That's right. Straight from North Korea, because we
now
care.
You know why I have so many dogs. I'm a rancher for the dog shoe company.
That's right. That's right. Thank God. And I hear that commodity is really rising in price. So you picked a good investment.
Yes. So those people ask some questions real quick. This is a puggle. Her name's River. She's blind. River Song. And yes, it's my birthday. I'm 2016 years old, Agudelo, France South. And I'm not a big fan of Trump, no. I think that covers it. So, what's the next question? Ask me anything.
I'm going to ask you something. I'm going to ask you something.
You get one free one.
I get one per show, people. One per show.
I don't like any of the candidates. Yeah, one per show.
But here's the axing. The Ninth Circuit Court in San Francisco, California, IA, made a pronouncement about 7 hours ago that you and me and people who like to conceal carry are unconstitutional, and that we have absolutely no rights whatsoever to carry concealed.
Uh-oh. You still there, Tim?
Yes, I'm still here. I'm still
Oh, you're cut off.
See,
We have no right to carry constitutional. Yeah. Well, I don't know how long you stayed for the show, but I kind of went on that on my first hour here about that. A man from England suggested that he wasn't comfortable with the Second Amendment. Yes, I'm a veteran. And I told him, of course, you know, that either you're for the Constitution or you're not. But the important thing is that if we got rid of the Second Amendment, it wouldn't get rid of my rights to have a gun,
Yeah.
the right to defend myself, because the Constitution does not give me any rights, and the Second Amendment does not give me any rights. These rights come from God. And the Second Amendment doesn't say anything about me keeping a gun. It says that Congress can't screw with me keeping a gun.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you got to realize that it's not saying I have a right to bear arms. It's saying Congress does not have a right to screw with my right to bear arms. And so, whatever noise you were talking about making these quotes about how we don't have the right to have guns or something is stupid. And most likely, she's more afraid of people like me with guns that will prevent government from doing things than they are of the criminals with guns. And I also pointed out that if you wanted to actually end gun violence like they're teaching and preaching out there, then what we need to do is to just simply ban Democrats from having guns, because they commit 90% of all gun violence.
That's true.
And that would cure it. And ban Democrats from holding elective office, because all the places where Democrats are in control, like Chicago, New York, Houston, Dallas, L.A., Detroit, that's where all the people are dying from gun violence.
Very
and
true.
They're the ones with the most draconian gun laws and the ones with the most Democrat control. And people can't make the causality connections there. So, yeah, we don't need to ban guns. We need to ban Democrats and label it the disease that it is. And
Now,
seek reform, yes.
Now, first and foremost, a lot of people think that the minute the jurists make a decision, that it has become law. First and foremost, according to our Constitution, is the Supreme Court capable and righteously able to create law?
Well, no, yeah, actually, it is. It is the court of record for certain things, like if there's a problem with a foreign country, they have a problem with America, then they are there to resolve things. They're also the court of record to resolve issues between the states. So if California and Nevada have a problem with one another, then the Supreme Court can intervene in those things. But they're not legislatures. They are not to create law at all, period. Amen. And so all they can do is interpret law and make determinations on right and wrong and constitutional provisions, like were your constitutional rights adhered to or not. Were the laws that the government passes constitutional? Because, if we passed a law that said that slavery was legal again, and the U.S. Congress passed that, then would that be a law? Well, the Congress passed it would be law if it was signed, by the president, of course. But the Supreme Court would then come back and say, no, this violates 14th and 15th Amendments, and so the 4th Amendment or whatever the others, and so no, it's not constitutional, and it would strike it down. But it could not offer in its place an alternative. That's not the court's role.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not even, they're accepted, of course, because of some chicanery at the very beginning. That is a now hat. I traded this with a Chinese guy in the Philippines back in '84. So, what we have with the Supreme Court having the final say over constitutional issues is not even right. They're not the final arbiter of the Constitution. Congress has a role in that, and we, the people, have a role in that, and state governments have. So, yes.
Now, next.
You have a toothache, or are you on to something?
No, I think I'm on to something. I'm thinking again. I know you warned me not to do that.
Uh-oh. There you go.
There goes the light bulb. You know, when Obama got rid of the light bulb, that took away most of my ideas. So
it's not the same when that little screw light bulb pops up on top of your head.
No, it takes too long. It really does. It is mercury too, so if it breaks, I have to bring the EPA in to clean it up. It's just it's too much of a hassle to think. But here's a thought.
Yes.
glad you asked.
Do it before you forget it.
You say that the states are the final arbiters, or are they really the final arbiters? Because if the courts can make a determination that the Second Amendment is unconstitutional, what right does the state have to fight back, as we are subject to the federal supremacy laws?
Well, first off, the Second Amendment simply states that Congress can make no laws infringing on the rights to guns, and that militias are required to keep a free state. So, if the Supreme Court decided that somehow that was unconstitutional, then what they're actually saying is that Congress does have a right to pass laws to infringe our right to own and bear arms. But they already do. And so that's pointless to me, because Congress makes lots of laws about gun ownership and federal firearm registries, and you have to have FLLs. I mean, I can't just ship you a gun. I have to go and ship it to a gun dealer with an FFL, a federal firearm license, and those are regulated and taxed and controlled. And Obama's trying to do this little deal now where if I gave a gun to my son, then I would have to have an FFL license, and so would he. And therefore, it would create, in de facto, a firearm registry. I love Sweden. They're very liberal, very progressive. Not liberal, but very progressive, and lots of pretty women. But I think they're in trouble because of their immigration rules. So with the ideas of, I'm doing a radio show, guys, so I really can't answer 10 million questions there. The concept that, let's say the Supreme Court did rule the Second Amendment wrong, then okay, all that's saying then is that Congress can make laws. That's all that it would change. It would not change the constitutionality of owning guns. Congress would have to then create legislation, and then the president would have to sign it, and then the Supreme Court would have to see if there was a challenge brought up over the constitutionality of it, which there would be, because it would be unconstitutional, and also go against the laws of God.
Yeah.
Because, we do love, one of my big things, we are creatures of nature's God, right?
Yes.
But we have the law of nature. This is what the Declaration is talking about. Declaration of Independence is what the Constitution is talking about. And natural law provides that we can defend ourselves. And that if that requires state-of-the-art weapons, then that's okay too. And and then the states would also be able to intervene in this. If the Supreme Court struck down the Second Amendment, then Texas could just simply say we don't recognize that, and we nullify that we are in fact going to recognize the Second Amendment in Texas.
Well, how is it? How can you nullify it when you don't have a right of protection under the federal Constitution in the U.S. Senate?
One of the things the Supreme Court would have to do is it wouldn't only have to strike down the Second Amendment, Ken. It would then have to also rule that the equivalent of the Second Amendment, I don't know what it is in Texas, it could be the 26th Amendment or whatever, but in Texas we have an amendment that very much mirrors the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. So our Constitution provides that we have a right to own arms. And almost every state does, except places like New York and Washington, D.C. And so, and other states like California, they have modified. And so all 57 states' constitutions would have to be looked at and brought to court and challenged and fought. This is what happened with abortion, right? When the Supreme Court ruled, all the states had abortion laws on their books, and the Supreme Court just wiped it out. And so this would be a monumental thing, and I believe that if it did happen, that you would see a bloody revolution.
Yes.
I don't think it would even slow down. We had 9 presidents before George Washington, and yes, but I like your thinking. Most people don't even know that. And the man from Mulberry Grove was the first president. Do you remember who that is, Kim? Our first president?
No, who was our first president?
It wasn't George Washington, it was John Hanson.
For the Articles of Incorporation.
Mulberry Grove, yeah.
The Articles of Confederation.
The Articles of Confederation.
That's right.
Huh?
That's right. Articles of Confederation, yes. John Hanson from Annapolis, Maryland, in fact.
Yeah. It was from Mulberry Grove, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But he gets credit for being there too. But he grew up in Mulberry Grove.
Yes. And he's also often confused with the John Hanson who happened to be black.
Yes. They all look alike.
You know, blacks, whites, they all look alike. You're listening tonight to New Day Black.
One John Hanson's as good as another.
Just as good, especially in the court of law.
I'm being asked to talk about culturalism and multiculturalism and diversity. And it's funny that you're asking that because I was wanting to talk to Ken about those things after his show last night. But the rules of the show is I don't know anything about what our show is. Radio and Black and Red is the 2-hour show starts at 8 p.m. Central Texas time, 9 Central or 9 Eastern, and I don't know the topic.
That's right.
So I am blindsided with the topic, and then I have to answer all these questions ad hoc off the top of my head without any preparation or anything.
Exactly.
How do we avoid a hypnotype?
Exactly.
I don't know.
This show could not be done by liberals. It could never be done by liberals because they require. Well, okay, illiberals. It could never be.
You mean progressive statists?
Progressive, Marxist, socialist, Democrat, whatever. They could never do a show like this because we are bounded by principles that we learn, and everything points back to the principles of the Constitution and the Bible. They could never do that for 2 hours on their program. They would always point back to Cornel West or Kathmandu or something.
Could you imagine them trying to talk to me for 2 hours?
Nah. Yeah. I want to give you a
comment. That moron that was up here earlier just started using cuss words and calling me names.
At least spell it right. If you're going to go all the way, spell it right. Don't do any hyphens, no stars, no quotation marks. Spell it out for a brother. Ruth
did. He spelled it right even. I do not listen to other radio show hosts mostly. I mean, every now and then I catch a couple seconds, but I don't want to be repeating what they say, so I avoid it.
Exactly.
Other hosts.
On New Day Black and Red, we give a biblical as well as a constitutional viewpoint of current day events. My host, Dr. Michael Jones, the underground professor, is not knowledgeable of what we're going to talk about, and neither am I knowledgeable what he's going to broach me with. But God seems to always bring us together on certain points collectively throughout our campaigns over the evening. I want to give you a quote because apparently Washington, D.C. is all ablaze about what, and I don't mean that metaphorically, all ablaze.
It could happen.
It could happen. It's the weekend. It can happen. Ruth Tenney is commenting about the concealed carry decision in the Ninth Circuit Court, the federal court. She says all rights have boundaries and limitations, and carrying a concealed weapon is a power trip for many. When was the last time we heard about a good guy who used his concealed weapon to ward off attackers? Well, apparently Ruth Tenney is in the same cave that received the viewing of the video that started the Benghazi problem. Can you elucidate?
Okay. Here's the thing, is the media strenuously avoids any story that talks about how people with a authorized legal weapon save lives. They try to avoid that. I mean, their stories are out there. You Google it, and you'll come up with hundreds of thousands of hits over stories of people who used a gun legally to defend their family or property. But these people that are making this argument from the left want to pretend that doesn't exist. Again, the gun violence is created by the Democrats, not by gun-owning lawful people that are licensed or trained, okay, and not by the military. This is done by Democrats, or people, and most of the Democrats, and this is one of the reasons why they want convicts to be able to vote.
Yeah.
Because all these people committing gun violence are losing the right to vote, and the Democrat Party's hurting. They need more people. So anyway, let me ask you this, and they're right about one thing. The Supreme Court has interpreted that there are limits to rights. I argue that there aren't limits to rights, and I can prove it, okay?
Yeah.
Let's say that I have a right to bear arms, that I have a right to defend myself. If my gun that's on my hip right now it's there, okay? No, come on, leave me alone. Ken, give me 5 seconds. I got to move, River.
Well, while you're doing that,
I'm wearing the Redskins hat.
Don't do it! Don't do it! Listen, we're going to take a 4-minute break here because I want to celebrate our newest sponsor, Dogs Footwear, DAWGS, USA DAWGS Footwear. We encourage you, go out and get your dog on.
Hi everybody, it's Kristen. I'm here to review women's spirits made by dogs. I love these shoes. I am an FM sufferer, so finding shoes that don't make my feet hurt is very tough. These don't make my feet hurt. I've tried Pumas, I've tried Nikes. Nikes are pretty good. Pumas I can't wear. They hurt my feet too much. I mean, it's to the point to where my feet hurt so bad to where I can't even walk. So I was so happy whenever I was contacted to review the new dogs. I love these dogs. I love these things. My feet don't hurt when I wear them. They got the holes in them to keep my feet cool. They got massaging, burpees inside. Feels like you're walking on little things of foam. I mean, like, it's just awesome. I just love it. The heel is a deep well down in your heel, and it protects. It's a shock absorber. So if you're running in them or jumping in them, like if you're on a trail and you have to jump in them, it absorbs the shock. What else? And then it's a higher thing back here for your heel. So it's like a really high thing that protects your ankle from when you're running, so there's no injuries, so it doesn't cause injuries. It's Velcro, so it's very easy to tighten your shoe, so whenever you're running, your shoe won't fall off when you're trying to run. I love these shoes, and I hope you guys really appreciate this review, and there will be pictures at the end, like always. But I wish you would guys go check them out. These women's spirits are $40. There's a whole bunch of other kind of shoes that you can purchase as well. There are children's shoes, toddler shoes, infant shoes, men's shoes, women's shoes. Anything you can think of, they got it. And they're pretty cool. So I hope you guys enjoy, and I will see you next time.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can get your shoes. You can get them tonight, in fact, if you just come to the exceptionalconservativeshow.com to Broadcast Central. You can click on the Dog's Paw, DAWGS, that's USA DAWGS. You click on, and then you use promo code GGA40. That guarantees you 40% off your first purchase. Ladies and gentlemen, do it today. I am telling you, my wife is looking forward to getting her big box, hopefully over the weekend, if not a little earlier. And we look forward to her wearing them and feeling a whole lot better about the pains in her feet. And if she does well in it, I'm quite certain you will do well too. So definitely go to the Exceptional Conservative Show Broadcast Central area. Click on the Dog's Paw and use promo code GGA40. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you back to the second half of the New Day Black and Red. It is a show that gives you the constitutional and Christian look through biblical perspective of the current events of this particular day. Our host.
I noticed when you read those things, Ken, that you always call me Dr. Jones. You never call me the Reverend Dr. Jones because you like doing all the religious stuff.
See, don't give it away.
Spot
All right, Reverend. Hold up, let me get my towel. All right, here we go. The right Reverend Dr. Oh, Lord Jesus. Michael. They call him Michael because he's related to the angel. Can I get an amen? You hear him in the north. You heard him in the south. You heard him in Texas. You're going to hear him in Vegas. Yeah, the right Reverend Dr. Michael Lord Jesus Jones, the underground professor. There you go. Thank you very much. That is your introduction to the black church.
I want to hear you say that for 2 hours and listen to your voice the next day.
No. Can't do it. Can't do it. No. I like talking.
Next time you do that, Mrs. Big needs a tambourine.
Yes. Never mind. I won't. No. I am not going. No. You're a smart man, but I'm trying to get smarter.
Hey, that's one of my favorite shows, Get Smart.
Get smart. That's right.
I love that show as a kid. That was a fantastic show.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Ask me I was answering a question. What was it?
You were answering the question that I was getting ready to go back to. This concept that there are limitations and boundaries to our Bill of Rights. Now, I understand that there are limitations and boundaries to the second Bill of Rights that was offered by Franklin Delano Roosevelt, has been implemented fully by President Barack Obama. But yeah, so how is it that we have limitations on the first Bill of Rights, sir?
Well, let's look at rights, not distinguish Bill of Rights or anything. Just look at rights, because a right is not the same as a Bill of Rights. Okay.
Okay.
The Bill of Rights was basically it's like putting a governor on your engine on your car to keep your kid from going over 60 miles an hour. That's all the Bill of Rights were. It's a governor on the Constitution to keep government from choking us and destroying our liberties. Okay. And so let's look at what a right is. I have a right to bear arms, and I've got a gun on my hip. Okay.
Yeah.
Can that violate your rights?
No.
And I'm having a gun right now. You were down here in Texas recently for a convention with me.
Yep.
And the entire time you were with me, I had a gun on my hip. Was there any moment did that violate any of your rights?
Well, only when you told me to dance like a newborn slave. But outside of that, no.
Well, that could have violated your rights when I started shooting at your feet and saying dance. Dance, my Negro, dance. But the thing was, and maybe that thing when you thought I was happy to see you, that it turned out to be my gun. That needs to be repealed and punished, and the people who wrote it punished. But my gun, whether it's in my house or on my hip, will never, ever violate anyone in America's rights, ever. Now, if they violate my rights and break into my home uninvited, commit violence or to rob me, they're violating my right. And I'm going to take their life. I'm not violating their right to life by doing so. They sacrificed that life. They became a volunteer for voluntary suicide, like suicide by cop, right?
Yeah.
It's not the cop's fault they have to shoot somebody that's running after them with a gun. We realize this. We call it suicide by cop, and we recognize that the police aren't responsible for that. Well, if you break into my home, I'm not responsible for the fact that now I have to kill you. And I'm not going to lose any sleep over it either. But I didn't violate your rights by having my gun. You don't have a right to break into my house and then say, oh, crap, you have a gun. That violates my right. You shouldn't have come in, buddy. You shouldn't have taken my stuff. You shouldn't have tried to kill me or rape my wife or anything. So, no. My gun, my right to defend myself will never, ever violate your rights. Now, I have a right to defend myself. But if I commit violence against you and it's not in self-defense, then I'm violating a right, but it's not in proportion of my rights. None of the rights that I have are being used to violate your rights. And if there is a conflict, then I suggest you, sir, we're no longer talking about rights. What we're talking about are other things, statutory laws and stuff. And but rights, we don't seem to understand even what they are in this country and what they encompass. I have a right to defense, and I have a right to life. And if those things are put in jeopardy, then you voluntarily give up whatever rights you could have timidly had because you violated mine.
But don't you have a natural right to protect life, liberty, and the pursuit of any other person's happiness? So when that person comes to your door, don't you have a natural right to tell that person that you have a gun and you are about to use it, and they have a right to back away and walk away? And isn't that a natural thing?
Well, there have been laws and rules created, not rights, but rules by governments that you couldn't stand your ground, that you had to retreat, that, you come into my house, then my obligation is to go out the back door, to call the cops, let them handle it. And that's not their job. And that's why stand your ground laws are so important. In fact, they're very important for the black community because, of all the thugs in the hood that want to do these things and hurt people. Well, you can't stand your ground in Washington, D.C.
That's right.
In other places. And the stand your ground law, by the way, has been used by black defendants more often than whites. So it's been a very good deal for them. And yet your black leadership, your quote unquote unelected black leadership like Jesse Jackson et al., Sharpton and those pukes are out there trying to get rid of it because they don't want you to be able to do that because their supporters are the thugs, not the law-abiding blacks. Now, I don't have to warn you. You should know that coming in. I don't even like the people who put up these signs, it's like warning, nothing I own is worth your life, or, protected by something less than. I think those are funny, but I think they send the wrong message. Plus, let me tell you what happens. If you have one of those signs and someone breaks your house and shoot them, then that will be used against you in the court of law. So it may be funny, but I certainly wouldn't have any of them posted to, because it would be used against you. But you had a predetermination to use violence is what they'll say, that you were wanting it to happen. For me, your warning, you'll never know it because by the time you hear the shot, you're probably already dead.
Exactly.
So, yeah, and I don't feel the need to warn you. You shouldn't have been in my house in the first place. You shouldn't have been on my property. And you're not. There is no one in America so stupid that they know breaking into a house is not wrong. I can't think of anybody. If there's some mentally retarded person, then they shouldn't have ever gotten to the point where they could break into my house. They should have been in a home somewhere. Either their family should be taking care of them, or the state should be in an asylum. Which the left got rid of most of these asylums, so we can't do that anymore because the left told us that they have a right to run around and be retarded and hurt people, and there's nothing we can do about it, which was wrong because it did a lot of damage to people's families and to these people that are retarded, and there's nothing wrong with the word retarded. It is a condition.
Yes.
And so, but we wanted to cleanse it and make it politically correct, change the language, make it euphemism, and give them a protected status. And quite simply, they needed help. And I am partially retarded. I'm semi-retarded. I have one of those AB normal brains. And there are people that, like Down syndrome and stuff. It's not the fault. They have no control over these things, and they don't have a full faculty of intellect. There's a lot of people that are running around with sub-100 IQs, and they, need to be washed out and protected by society. We all have not the word burden isn't the right one. We have a social obligation to protect these people. Abby Norman, that's it. And our families, we have an obligation to protect them, our families too, to take care of these kids. It should not be government as our go-to result for this. This should be something that families take care of, and churches take care of, and
Well-
so yeah.
Well, here's a query, because a lot of the lefties.
Well, to sum that up, Tim, my rights can't violate yours. Now, you know the old Supreme Court saying that I have a right to swing like this until it reaches your nose.
Yes.
So, yeah. So, that's right. Because once my fist connects to your nose, it's no longer my right to swing my fist. It's your right not to have your nose bashed in.
Exactly.
And
to defend yourself.
Yeah, so it's right. It's a change of rights. It's not my right trumps your right. You have a right to swing your fist, but you don't have a right to hit me in the nose unless you're defending yourself. And so it's used in such a way by a lot of people to make it sound like you're talking about how one right stops and the other one begins, but that's not it. You're talking about a whole different set of rules if you connect with my nose. And so my rights can never violate anyone else's rights, or you're not talking about rights.
Well, this is what the lefties will say here in Washington, D.C. to people like me. Ken, you just want people to die in the streets. You just like to see a lot of people killed in the streets. That's why you want to carry a concealed weapon. And quite frankly, those people who are stealing and robbing, they're only doing it because they have to. And they got to protect themselves.
Okay, well, first off, I'd like to hit somebody in the nose that would say that to you. You have had family killed in the street.
Yeah.
And you couldn't defend them or protect them because of the unconstitutional laws of Washington, D.C. when it comes to gun ownership. And I don't understand how anybody could say that someone whose daughter is gunned down by thugs and used as a human shield would not see a need to have self-protection. Those are the kind of people that I think we need to round up and just beat the snot out of.
There you
go. Because, there was a time in this country, Ken, where you could take care of people like that, no one batted an eye. Now they're held up as intellectual giants. Yeah.
Exactly. So
why would you say that to me? I'm not a Trump supporter. But you guys are Big Red, you need to go tell your mom she failed you, and you're a loser.
There you go.
And yeah, I'm sorry. I've got all these weirdos that come walking in and attacking me for supporting Trump. I don't. What have I ever said that makes me sound like a Trump supporter?
Exactly.
So go ahead.
Well, this is also if we could switch gears for a moment.
Kim,
yeah.
There is a woman on here whose username is yeast infection.
Wow.
Now, I'm telling you, that's a woman I want to bring home to mom.
Nah. Boy, it must be tough sitting down.
I'm sorry. I had to share that with you. That just blows my mind. These people.
Yeah. Whatever you do, don't cross your legs.
And certainly, you can't have an intellectual conversation. It's all words and.
Yeah, but this is where we got into in terms of American discord. We used to be able to debate and win based on common sense and the perceptions of principle. Now, if you're not bloody, if you haven't said cuss words, if you haven't bashed and gotten into the face of your opponent and yelled and screamed at him as the dictator-in-chief has instructed them to do, then you're not really debating. You're not really facing off against your opponent. And we have reached a point in America now where we have gone from civil debate to actual criminal disobedience. I mean, you're almost killing people because they have a different mindset and a different opinion than yours. And actually, the person you're yelling and screaming and cursing at sounds more civil and looks more civil and is acting more civil than you. So their argument is always going to be the winning argument.
Well, that's the way that is, And, it's. I feel bad for them, Ken, because they have gone through a school system where they've been told that they're intelligent and that they've learned something. And they get out and their feelings get hurt so easily because all they've had is their self-esteem hyperbolized, just blown up out of proportion, right? And so they feel good about everything, but if they don't, then they need safe zones. And everybody gets a trophy, as B1 was saying, and a participation status. And so if there's anybody else out there that challenges it or says something that they can't deal with, then they don't have any tools in their tool bag to counter it. They can't argue because they have no depth of knowledge, no understanding of history, no understanding of what freedom and liberty is, no understanding of the Constitution, no understanding of rights, no understanding of liberty and freedom, no understanding of the political system, and yet they want to participate and communicate. And so what are they doing? They become violent. This is why there's violence at Trump rallies. This is why there's Black Lives Matter movements. This is why the Black Panthers, block people and intimidate 80-year-old white women at polling booths. This is because that's the only thing they have in their tool bag is violence and intimidation.
Professor,
are there any societies? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Professor, there is no difference between the rioters that are paid by Bernie Sanders and George Soros and Black Lives Matter and all the rest of them. There is no difference between them and gang leaders in communities that have virtually bastardized those communities with retaliation, with violence, and with threats. And it's no difference than the mafia doing the very same to businesses in a community. And
for sure.
And so apparently might makes right. And we have been told that type of tyrannical thinking was why we left the British Empire. But apparently there are people here who are loyalists who want to return back to it.
Well, this is what happened in Rome, which I admire. One of the societies I admire is Rome and Greece. I like their societies. And the Spartans. I really like the Spartan societies. But Rome fell apart because of this thing, Ken. This is what happened to Rome. They rotted from inside, and this is what we're doing. We're rotting from inside. We're promoting thugs, and we're trying to take away the rights of law-abiding citizens to defend themselves against these thugs. And the only thing you can draw from that, the only conclusion, is that the political class thinks there's a benefit to having thugs armed and not the rank and file of this country. And so you have to then say, well, what is it that they'll get out of that? Well, they'll get chaos. And if they get chaos, then we will look to them for even more rules, laws, and regulations, which I don't know how they could do because no one can tell me one thing that our government doesn't tax, control, and regulate. So why do they want, and how are they going to make more rules and laws? I mean, but they do. And there's a thing down here in Texas, Ken, very bad. I had a problem with chiggers on my property, as you know.
Yeah.
And you know what a chigger is, right?
I'm not going there.
They're these insects like ticks.
Yes.
And they burrow into your skin and they itch like Dickens. And if you scratch it, then you break the body off and the heads are inside your leg and they still eat and do stuff and hurt you. Yeah, bring back DDT. I think it's criminal that they banned it. They killed a lot of people banning DDT.
Yeah.
Anyway, I had a problem with chiggers on my property, and I was out spraying for it. And then I realized when I went to Ace Hardware to buy chigger poison that you can't call them chiggers anymore. You have to call them Chigro Americans.
Chigro. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to the most prolific Thursday night program in the world. Yes, it is. It is New Day Black and Red with your host, Dr. Michael Jones, better known as the Underground Professor. His peon, or his little piss, however way you wish to say it, and his understudy, the exceptional one, Ken McClinton. We're broadcasting, simulcasting from Fort Worth and from Washington, D.C. You can hear us on SHR Media Live right now. You can hear us at Blog Talk Radio Live right now. You can hear us also on the Exceptional Conservative Show's Broadcast Central page. You can go there right now and listen to us live. You will be able to listen to us at 2 o'clock in the morning on the Internet Conservative Radio Network. They're about to change their name, so pay attention on July 4th to that new
Will
change.
they get in trouble?
No,
Or are they getting married?
I think they're getting married. You know what happens. She gets all the money, you get all the claim and the blame.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Don't get me started. It's my birthday. Don't get me started. I went a whole show about talking about my ex-wife, and now you did this.
Happy birthday, Professor. You can also hear us on High Plains Pundit Media during the course of the day. You can always get us back in terms of rebroadcast. You can come to the Underground Professor's website, undergroundprofessor.us, theexceptionalconservativeshow.com. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter and all the other social media that you want to find us on. Whether you're in Saudi Arabia, whether you are in Istanbul, whether you are in Britain, or right in the great fascist state of Ohio, where they now have marijuana. Poor Mary. You can go anywhere and listen to us around the world. Professor, we've gone over.
I was asked a question I think is interesting. How have Republicans gone from free traders to protectionists? And I would argue that real Republicans are still for free trade. Conservatives are for free trade.
Yeah.
The protectionists are coming from the neocons and the progressives in the Republican Party. The establishment Republicans, if you will. The progressives that aren't as crazy as the ones on the left, but they're still progressives, big government types. Those are the ones that think protectionism and Trump is a protectionist. I don't agree with his policies on that.
Yeah.
I can take a lot of stuff about Trump, but when you're foul like that, you got to go. So I think that the party is changing drastically because of its lurch to the left, and I don't get that. Because nothing that socialism or communism or fascism have ever pursued has worked in history. So I don't know why we think now this is the time that will work.
Exactly.
But freedom and liberty work every time we try. And coupled with capitalism, no other government, no other country in the history of man has created as much wealth for the masses, for as many people, has created as good a life as America has. And it's because of America that people are living into their 80s and 90s and under peak globalization. Yes, I disagree with it. I don't believe in globalization of anything. I believe in statism to the point of I believe in having boundaries and states and nationalism. I like that.
Yeah.
And so, yes. So then we do need to keep the Senate to save our court. So, okay. Did I answer your question on rights? Did we cover that thoroughly?
I think we covered it thoroughly enough. And I love the interesting concept regarding free market, free trade. One of the caveats of being a conservative is that you understand that the less government intervention, the greater the profit, the greater the number of jobs that will be created, the greater the investment in the community and also in the infrastructure. And this is my problem with the Trumpistas who are running around saying the very same thing that the Hillaryites proclaim and the Bernieites proclaim, that somehow if we tax Americans and take that tax money from the states, give it to the federal government, they will redistribute that wealth to building the infrastructure that we need in this particular country, and will do so at a level and rate that is economical and feasible. Well, we already saw under the Obama administration where in the first year he took $1.9 trillion to improve the infrastructure of America. And as far as I know, there's still potholes in the middle of Pennsylvania Avenue, northwest and southeast. There are bridges that are decaying right before our very eyes. And this whole concept that somehow if we use our tax dollars to improve infrastructure at the federal level, that will create jobs. There were not any jobs created under this administration. We just saw in May 38,000 jobs get created across the country. And thank God for Texas. If it wasn't for Texas, we wouldn't have had the 38,000. Ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, most of those were here.
Exactly. If it wasn't for Texas, the great Commonwealth of, well, actually, it's a republic, but the great state of Texas, oh my God, we would be in a certain creek and up there without a paddle. Ladies and gentlemen, anytime you ask government to intervene in anything, it gets more expensive, fewer people get served, and as well, only the challenged few actually ever profit from it. And in fact, I believe that we had a conversation earlier this week, if not or last week, Professor, where we were talking about the fact that New York, when she was the senator, Hillary Clinton, there were not a lot of dollars that were headed back to New York to fix the infrastructure. Am I right on that?
Yeah. 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 The only shovel-ready jobs were the ones that they were shoveling on us.
Yeah.
It was all a scam. It was all about redistribution of money. And Obama was honest about that, if you remember. He told everybody that environmentalism was about redistribution of money, and he told everybody that the shovel-ready jobs was about redistribution of money, and he did. He redistributed it to his friends and family and cronies, like Solyndra. $2 billion went to Solyndra, and what did we end up with? Less than a year later, no jobs, and it made 10 millionaires. 10 people in Solyndra became millionaires, and all the other people lost their jobs. And only it seemed like a handful of Republicans were annoyed about that and screamed bloody murder. But the left was okay with $2 billion being tossed.
Professor, I want to ask you this right here. We hear all the time that Democrat socialists want to create jobs. But are jobs really just a ways to the means for the socialists? Is it just another tool to get to the very end goal that they have in mind?
No. When they say job creation, they don't mean creating jobs unless it's government jobs.
Yeah.
What they mean, Ken, is that it's a buzzword that people like you and I that have to work so we can eat and pay for our kids' braces in school, what it means is it's a trigger word for us that we think the government's going to do something to help us get jobs, and so we're for it. Without looking at the gift horse in the mouth. We don't want to know the details. We just want more jobs. So the government doesn't create jobs unless they're government jobs. And those aren't jobs that benefit the economy. Those are jobs that suck money out of the economy. And that money would be better served in the economy being used by us than by government. And so it's a bunch of crap, but it's buzzwords that people, especially Democrat voters, want to hear, and so they are played to.
So, but Professor, why are the Trumpinistas excited about Trump making America great and creating jobs? Is he not saying the same thing that Hillary is saying? Anyone from government tells you that they're going to create jobs. It's not true.
Well, no, actually, I'm going to differ with you on that. But let me stop there for a second. Don't let me not answer that, because I want to get to the first thing you said.
Okay.
Trump sounds more like Bernie Sanders than he does Hillary. Mm-hmm. Okay? And he's even come out and said that Bernie Sanders and him share the same ideas when it comes to the economy. If you look at the three candidates, I would have to argue that Hillary, oh, well, there you go. Someone beat me in my chat. Hillary Clinton actually may be the most conservative-minded when it comes to the economy.
Wow.
Now, you can argue that Trump has made millions of jobs. He's also lost millions of jobs for people, but argue that he has created millions of jobs. And there are a lot of people that are working today that owe their jobs to Trump, and you can't take that away from the man. The man is a good businessman, okay? So the argument then is that if he can create jobs in the civilian world, he'll do the things that are necessary to create jobs in the government world. Okay, now let's set that to the side.
Okay.
And I go back to Ronald Reagan, who doubled the amount of money coming into the Treasury after he cut taxes, and lots of people went to work. Okay, and listen to me, nice toast, and you may change your mind on both parts. But what happened under Ronald Reagan? We had the longest peacetime growth rate ever in this country. And it wasn't all military like that people try to pin it on. Say, well, it was just military growth because he boasted spending the military. That was part of it, but not the majority of it. Why did we have a growth rate in jobs, and how does the president get credit for that? Because presidents don't create jobs. What he did was he deregulated lots of industries, and he got the government to cut back on red tape. And because he got the government out of our lives, we were able to go out and create jobs, which is what Americans do. We create jobs. And if we lose our job and we can't find one, then we go start one. If it's mowing people's lawns or cleaning their toilets, we go do it. I have a friend that was vice president of PATCO, the air traffic controller. Warrior fan? No, I'm not a Warrior fan. Mavericks. But while they were on strike, right? Ronald Reagan booted their butts.
Yeah.
As he should have. And so my friend, who actually, I call him my friend, he was my family's friend. I was a kid. He was obviously in the 80s. I was 18, and he was an adult and vice president. Well, he started a lawn mowing business so he could keep his family fed after the union money ran out for them striking. And then they got fired and had nothing. And then PATCO was abolished, but they offered this guy back his job because he was vice president, and they said they needed his expertise. So they offered him his job back without any recriminations. And he turned it down because while he was off and he started mowing lawns, he created a business that was making more money, and he was more satisfied, and he didn't have the stress of being an air traffic controller to do than he was as vice president of a political union, or as a air traffic controlling union and an air traffic controller.
Yeah.
So that's America. You can't do that in too many other countries. And that's what we need to preserve and protect. And so if Donald Trump is saying, we're going to make America great again because I'm going to get government out of our lives, then okay, I'm for that. But I'm afraid that the term make America great again has zero value. It's one of those things where I say, make America great again, and you think, oh, well, yeah, I'm for that. Who doesn't want America to be great again? Okay, so, but what does it mean? Does it mean that he's going to be a dictator and a fascist to get his will, and that will make America great again? Or does it mean that he's getting government out of our way, and that will make America great again? Does that mean he's going to get Congress and bully them to deregulate this country like Ronald Reagan did and make America great again? We don't know, because Trump has not assigned a value to those words, make America great again. The people who would assign value are the hearers, and they put whatever they think it means into it, and they're all for it, and that's why they're supporting him. And that's why they think he'll create jobs.
Exactly. Exactly. Professor,
but I really can't get into it. What?
That was well stated.
I'm just telling that we're talking. I can't answer all these questions.
Someday we're just going to have a show where you answer all of those.
My chat room says that he's going to get business-minded people in charge of positions. Well, what positions?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, there's Congress, right? And you can't get business-minded people in that because those are elected by us. He could put a few people in his cabinet, but not enough that I think it would really make a difference, and especially not enough if they start doing things like crony capitalism like Hillary's a fan of and Obama's a fan of. I'm afraid Trump will be a crony capitalist, and it'll just be his side that gets it.
Exactly.
But I could be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong.
Well, this is what Trump said. I'm only going to use the words of Donald Trump, and then you can tell me if I'm in error in terms of my thinking that he may not necessarily do what we're asking or thinking that he should do. He says, in Trump's America, there were no mini meals reinventing American steel and taking market share from the old stalwarts by recycling scrap into lower cost, increasingly valuable products. In Trump's America, there were no auto companies lightening their cars by reducing the amount of steel they contain. No Ford betting big on aluminum trucks. Certainly nobody thinking about carbon fiber. And of course, in Trump's America, nobody minds that raising the price of steel hurts every U.S. company that uses it, be it a construction firm or a medical instrument maker, and every consumer who buys for them. The candidates promised to slap a 35% tariff on Carrier air conditioners and parts made in Mexico reveals the same blind spot. Every U.S. company buying HVAC equipment for its office, factory, or server farm, not to mention Americans cooling their homes, hospitals, churches, and schools, would be hurt. In the hope of recreating a bygone ideal of what winning looks like, 1950s industrial production protected from global competition, Trump would punish the actual winners in the U.S. Punishing people who profit, that's what Bernie does. That's what Hillary does. That's what Obama does. I don't understand how that creates jobs.
Well, you and I talked about his statements like he would go after Carrier air conditioners because they're moving to Mexico.
Yeah.
And that tells me that Trump is either saying this strictly to throw red meat to the masses and get them all excited, or he doesn't understand our country and Constitution. Carrier, and I talked about this on my show, Ken, you should probably listen to it every now and then, you know this.
Every once in a while.
I talked about how Carrier air conditioners, Carriers the ones who invented the air conditioner in this country. And that we would have had air conditioning 10 years sooner, except that government had so many regulations, Carrier couldn't figure out how to profit off it. And so they shoved it. And then when the 20s came along and they started deregulating government, then Carrier said, hey, wait a minute, I can make money on this. So he went and created the air conditioner, and now we all have them in all our houses. Even the poor have them. So if Carrier wants to move out of this country, the question isn't, are they greedy and just hate America? That's not the right question to ask. The right question is to say, what did government do to run Carrier out of America?
Yes.
And the answer is they've overregulated the industry. They have made it cost, the compliance costs are outrageous. The getting involved in what kind of refrigerants can be used and all the government inspections that have to be done on all these parts and pieces and the unionization of this stuff, which is part of the government. Unions are part of the government for the most part, okay? They are, the government is the party of the Democrats. Democrats are the party of government. They like government. They want government to control and regulate everything, which it pretty much does. Unions are a creature of the Democrat Party for the most part, and they also do need that. And Mexicans need air conditioning too. It's hot as hell down there. I mean, we're in Texas. We're part of what Mexico used to be, and it's hot here. But the right thing is Trump should be saying, when I'm president, I'm going to figure out what are these conditions that make companies want to leave America to do business because they can't afford to do it here, that they can't comply here. And that we need to deregulate these industries. We need to get Congress out of this. And more importantly, we need to get the damn bureaucrats, which are unelected and unaccountable to you and I, the sovereigns of this country. We have no say over their pay, no say over their hiring, their firing, what their jobs are, but we have to comply with any rules, edicts, regulations, controls, or anything that they come up with. And it is the bureaucrat, here's my Japanese lips again, bureaucrat rules that are forcing Carrier to think it's better business to go in Mexico than it is, and Oreo cookies go down there too.
Exactly.
Right? And so it frightens me when somebody like Trump would turn around and say that he wants to punish Carrier
Yes.
for that decision. No. I'm not happy Carrier would want to move down there, or Oreo cookies. I'd rather them be in America. That would be better for America. But who owns Carrier Air Conditioning? Is it a government-owned industry? Maybe. But no, Carrier is owned by private people. People own that. Either they're stockholders or it's the Carrier family. I don't know.
Yeah.
But whoever it is, it's not government. And government can't tell me if I have to have a business in this country. It's not government's job to tell me that. And it scares the living crap out of me for people that want to be my president, that think that government has a right to punish companies who don't want to do business in this country.
Thank you.
Because of what government's done to them.
Exactly.
I like the joke about liberty moving to the other island. That's funny.
The other thing about, and forgive me for being a blaster of Trump at this particular moment, I have not settled in firmly in support of him. But
I'm not exactly against him either.
No.
I'm not
Yeah.
excited about him.
Yeah, I'm not. And a lot of this has to be done by Congress. It can't be done by the president. We put too much power on the president in the first place. But it doesn't give me comfort in the middle of the night in my slumber when I know a man says he wants to repeal and then replace one of the most hardened, dangerous, destructive pieces of regulation that ever was passed by a U.S. Congress. In fact, the Founding Fathers are rolling over still in their graves at what Congress did in the midnight hour before Christmas Day. The passage of Obamacare. It is singularly one of the most hellacious reasons for why we are not creating jobs in this country, and how poor people have actually lost more money than they've actually gained in benefits because they lost a 40-hour work week and have found a 32-hour work week. They've lost 416 hours a year, which works out to...
So they don't have to have benefits.
Yes!
More people have lost health care than have gotten it.
Yes!
You can't argue that some people haven't benefited from it, but more people have cost. My medical costs, Ken, I'm a government employee, right?
Yeah.
I'm a government employee. As much as I blast them, I'm a mailman. That's Constitution, right? It's in the Constitution, the mail service. So my medical benefits are going up 60% next year.
Wow.
They've already told 60%. Thank God we have Obamacare, because mine was just fine. And not only is it going up 60%, but there are going to be further reductions in benefit coverage. And the whole design is the government wants this because they want to push us into single payer. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And government doesn't belong in the business of healthcare. And I believe one day historians, I have a hope that our country will survive long enough that historians are going to look back and say that the Supreme Court's decision by Chief Justice Roberts to preserve Obamacare will be listed as the second worst decision, only following the Dred Scott
decision. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm still looking to the decision regarding a man can't keep his own private wheat decision regarding commerce as one of the top 5 in American history.
Well, sure.
Wow. We get hot and bothered towards the end of our program, and I want to.
Yeah, people are talking about that. You don't need to yell.
I'm sorry.
I'm
For all
I
our
just don't understand.
NPR listeners, I apologize. I will go like this for the rest of the I apologize.
Tonight, the book talk. We're talking about the instrument.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the King James Version of the Bible, as we deal with the issue of this evening regarding a night in Tel Aviv or the Hamas two-state solution. We remember that last night, while men and women were peacefully gathered and assembled to share a tea or conversation with the ones that they loved, to basically make good on the grace and mercy of God, for which we all have given provision. These individuals were riled, killed, many injured. They were peaceably assembled and unpeaceably disassembled. They were brought together in many cases for love and separated in hate. Now, many people will say after listening tonight that, first and foremost, I'm glad that you are. This is New Day Black and Red. It is a constitutional and a biblical perspective on the day's affairs. But the trials and tribulations of Israel and its enemies has been as long as the days have been upon the earth, seemingly. And one of the things that people prescribe to a ever-caring, ever-loving God who is omniscient, knows the beginning from the end, is a sense of dread and hatred towards him, because he advised the Hebrews, once they had assembled to cross the Jordan into the promised land, to annihilate, to completely eliminate all of their enemies. I want to take you in scripture to Deuteronomy chapter 7 tonight. And I want you just to take a little time while you are drinking your own tea, not only to contemplate what somebody was doing in Tel Aviv the night before, so that you might be able to place yourself in their shoes if you could, but also to get an understanding of how detestable it is right now for the people of Israel in such a blistering place. In Deuteronomy 7 verse 1, it is written, "When the Lord thy God shall bring thee into the land whither thou goest, to possess it, and has cast out many nations before thee, the Hittites, and the Girgashites, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater."
And the
headlights, that's right. They were the 8th. They didn't make it into the workings of the writings. 7 nations greater and mightier than thou. Deuteronomy 7 verse 2. "And when the Lord thy God shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them." And I want you all to get this term here. Utterly. Utterly.
Strong's H 2763. Chavan. Chavan.
Utterly.
Oh no. Tim, did we lose you?
No. Just playing a
Okay.
clip.
Oh, you're playing another clip?
Yeah, I already played it. Don't worry about it.
Oh.
Utterly means to ban, devote, destroy utterly, completely destroy, dedicate for destruction, exterminate. It means to split, to slit, to mutilate. It means to divide, to destroy, to forfeit. There is to be a complete and total devotion to the utter destruction of their enemies. And yet, the Israelites, the Jews, the Hebrews, chose not to. Now, I want you to understand that Hamas and ISIS and Al-Qaeda and all the other extremists, jihadists, Mohammedans, have verses in their Quran which speak to the complete and total annihilation of their enemies. In fact, they call it jihad. And that if the infidel refuses to accept Muhammad, then he should be slaughtered. For thousands of years, the Mohammedans have practiced utter destruction of Israel, the Jews, the Hebrews, and the Judeans. They have been unsuccessful. Why, you might ask, if God would tell the Jews to do this to their enemies, they did not do so? God explains it very clearly in Deuteronomy 7, verse 3, 4, 5, and 6. Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughter thou shalt not give unto his son, nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son. Your chemical imbalance within you will make you make decisions that are not beneficial for the well-being of the nation. Deuteronomy 7:4. For they would turn away thy son from following me, that they may serve other gods. So will the anger of the Lord be kindled against you and destroy thee suddenly. You will practice apostasy and even get to a point where following Obama as a Democrat liberal Jew seems reasonable in your own eyes. Deuteronomy 7:5. But thus shall ye deal with them. Ye shall destroy their altars, and break down their images, and cut down their groves, and burn their graven images with fire. If you notice these particular points, he's talking to them about business decisions and life. He's talking with them about false religions. He's talking with them about the pornography that is given. He's talking about cutting down their industries that prevail and people choose to keep because they have a great attraction to. And in terms of that total annihilation, burning the images with fire, completely casting and burning out. Deuteronomy 7:6. For thou art a holy people unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself, above all people that are upon the face of the earth. Deuteronomy 7:7. The Lord did not set his love upon you, nor choose you, because you were more in number than any people, for ye were the fewest of all people. Deuteronomy 7:8. But because the Lord loved you, God does not say that he loved them alone, but that he had a fixation upon them because they were the smallest. God doesn't want the largest. God wants the smallest to show his glory through mankind. And because he would keep the oath which he had sworn unto your fathers, hath the Lord brought you out with a mighty hand, and redeemed you out of the house of bondmen, from the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. What God is saying there is very swift. Because he made a promise only he is willing to keep. He is willing to see them through the great causes against them, even against the greatest army of their time, King Pharaoh's Egypt. 7:9, I'll end it there. There is a condition and a requirement of this love. Know therefore that the Lord thy God, he is God. God alone. He don't need nobody's help. He was there before you and he'll be there after you. He is God, the faithful God, which keep covenant and mercy with them that love him and keep his commandments to 1,000 generations. God's love is eternal, and he offers it to those who have enemies. Those who turn their face against God are the enemies of God. They are sworn to destroy that which God loves. It is important for us in this day and season to understand that sometimes in order for us to coexist, we have to be able to name our enemies and then proclaim God's love to our enemies, that they may wane in their strength and fearfully walk away from us. Professor, your thoughts?
Yes.
I'm glad you were
My
listening.
thoughts?
Yes, sir.
Well, my thoughts are that I'm worried more than I ever have been for my country. I'm worried that we don't have the, well, there's a lot of like take football teams, right? You and I like football.
Yep.
I'm a Cowboy fan, and unfathomably, you're a Redskin fan. And if the key players get hurt, you go to the bench, right?
Yep.
And you get the next player. Now, they're not a marquee player, but they should be good enough to play professional football. I'm worried in our country, because of what we have done to them academically, that we don't have a deep bench anymore, that we don't have second stringers to look to right now.
Yeah.
And I'm very worried about it, because so many of these people have no concept of things that I take for granted, that you take for granted, that we grew up with. It's one thing to comment that they didn't grow up knowing the freedoms of freedom, that you could hop on a bike and drive around, and be back home by dark, because that was when dinner was. And they don't have those memories of everybody eating together at dinner, But those are superficial things. I mean, they're important, but they're not critical. But there are so many things in our country that we don't understand about what freedom is and what liberty is and the duties that come with that. I mean, we all talk about our rights, but those rights are coupled with duties.
Yeah.
And we don't, I mean, barely can even, they can, I said duty. They barely can tell you what a right is, but they don't understand the duties that come with that, the obligations of freedom. And they can't articulate their arguments. And the sad thing is you see in their faces this frustration that they want to defend their ideas or whatever it is that they've been told, often only exposed to one side of the arguments and not both sides. And then they can't, because they don't have any depth or understanding. They don't really know why the freedoms are what they have or what they aren't. And so they have to resort to ad hominem attacks and they call people names. And they can't sit here and argue where a right comes from, because they don't know. And they can't explain why a right isn't limited. And it makes sense to them when someone says that all rights are limited by their very nature. And am I one of those professors poisoning students with liberal bias? So, yeah, I'm a liberal. I'm not a progressive.
Yeah.
I'm a liberal like Thomas Jefferson. That's the crap I fill people's heads up with. So you have this frustration in them, and I think this is where the seeds of the violence you're seeing at rallies and stuff in this country. and the Occupy Wall Street and all that. Remember the violent actions that came from that? I mean, they had to put up rape tents and everything.
Yeah.
On cop cars. I see this as a direct response to the fact that they can't articulate an argument. They don't understand it. All they understand is that they are special, their self-esteem is very high, and if anything challenges that, like the real world, which isn't fair, then they don't know what to do. And this is how you get arguments for things like minimum wage and increasing it, and how you get arguments for government to control and regulate everything so that all of our outcomes are the same, that we're all equal. But, every time in history you've ever seen that, like, I don't know, the Soviet Union, the only thing that's equal is the misery. And they don't understand historically that there's always been people that are poor and people that are wealthy. And it's not always exploitation.
Exactly.
Certainly there always is exploitation, but there's also the fact that not all choices are the same or relevant. I just did a show again on whether truth can be relative. And
Yes.
that was the juxtaposition of my argument is that all decisions and actions aren't the same, therefore they all won't equally be rewarded the same. And they don't get that. When you go by people's houses and you see in their trash 15 pizza boxes, 44 malt, 40 ounce malt liquor bottles, and Dr. Pepper cans and crap, and you see in there also their mortgage foreclosure papers. That they're getting letter after letter from specialists that can help them save their mortgage. You're thinking, if these people just quit smoking cigarettes and eating pizza, they could afford their mortgage. So their choices aren't valid, but they don't understand this because they don't understand economics. Our high schools don't even teach kids how to balance a checkbook anymore. But they all know that they deserve better. And they all believe when they graduate, they should be running Kmart or Walmart or being CEOs or senators. None of them think that they need to start at the bottom and work their way up the ladders. And because of that, we see a lot of confusion and anger. And I only see it getting worse, not better, because we're not doing anything to fix these things.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a problem of Republicans and Democrats. This is a problem of our school system. This is a problem not just at the national level, but at the state levels as well, where education should be handled as local as possible. And because of this, I don't see that we have a deep bench. And because of that, I don't see freedom lasting much longer. And I also see that we will vote ourselves out of it, that we will give it away.
Yeah.
Not all of us, but enough of us that it happens. And we're seeing that constantly. Every new rule, law, and regulation that gets through, every edict that our Supreme Court passes down upon us, I see this happening, and it's whittling away. And there's just simply not enough people that understand this, articulate it, and fight it. And that scares me, because the next generation will not step up and be the heroes that we need them to be.
Actually, we're beginning to see the self-fulfilling prophecy of Benjamin Franklin as we come to a close of our show. Yes. And Benjamin Franklin answered the woman who asked him, "What were you all doing in the building?" And his response is, "Giving you a republic for as long as you can."
No, he said something else. What was it he said, Kim?
I don't know. Go ahead. Tell me, what did he say?
You know what he said. He said we have a come on, finish it.
A constitutionally federated republic. As long as you...
Federated republic. Ding, 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 ding.
As long as you keep it. And it seems like we're giving it away, just as Benjamin Franklin thought we would. Ladies and gentlemen, a friend of mine once told me, always be brave. Never die a coward. I promise you I always will. From Washington, D.C. and Fort Worth, Texas, we thank you so much tonight for tuning in to New Day Black and Red. And we want you to remember, God has blessed America. It's time for America to bless God. We'll be back next week. God bless you.
Good night, my friend.
Good night, sir.
Happy birthday to me.
Happy birthday, Professor.
All right, this was fun.
We will. Good night, God bless.